how a bill becomes a law. So here's our how a bill becomes a law flow chart that we did in class on Friday. And what I'm going to do is walk you through each step of this, as I did in the lecture, just to remind you about the process and how it went. So everything starts with an idea, right? Ideas come from lots of places. They come from lobbyists, from Congress, from regular people. The Constitution gives everybody the right to draft a bill, right? So you would have an idea, and you would draft a bill. So you'd write the thing. There it is. But then you're going to have to find a sponsor. Any member of Congress can sponsor a bill. And if it's sponsored by a House member, the bill will start in the House, or financial bills have to start in the House. But if it's sponsored by a Senate member of Congress, then it will start in the Senate. And each bill needs a primary sponsor. That's one of the reasons. So, though they can be sponsored by any member of Congress. Doesn't really matter. So this is our Senate remix today. We're going to pick a sponsor that comes from the Senate. So we're going to start this bill off in the Senate. So after you get your sponsor, it's going to go over to the majority leader. In this case, it's going to be Harry Reid. And the majority leader of the Senate is going to have two choices. He's going to read the thing, and he could kill it. He could just not schedule the thing for debate, and the bill would die right there. Or let's say he likes the thing. He's going to throw it into the right committee. The committee is going to take a look. Now, committees and their subcommittees will go back and forth. They'll gather experts and expertise on the bill, and they'll refine the bill in a way that they think may have a chance on the floor. So it'll go back and forth, and back and forth, and back and forth, and the committee can have two choices. Well, they can kill it right here, and that's called pigeonholing, right? They could just not report it favorably to the floor. It could just spin around in committee all day long and never really get out. Some bills that have been passed into law have been in this process for decades, and so that happens. Or they could schedule it for a vote. They could come down here and they could actually vote on the thing. So votes obviously have two different outcomes. There's a no and there's a yes. For no, the bill is killed. It is not reported to the floor. They could just kill it right there. They could say, no. They could put it back in committee if they want to. It's at their discretion. Or, yes, they could report the bill favorably to the floor. And that's kind of the jargon that's used formally. They will report the bill favorably to the floor. Now, there's a caveat here, the Rules Committee. It's parenthetical because we're starting this bill off in the Senate. The Senate Rules Committee is not as effective as the House Rules Committee. We'll get to the House Rules Committee here in just a minute, but in this case, it's enough to mention that they go through the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee set the rules for debate, and then it moves on to the Senate floor. Now, Senate floor has a couple of options here. Now, they will debate and amend, but one of the interesting things about the Senate is you have this filibuster. During the debate process, they can kill the bill if they can essentially run out the time for the debate. Now, the time for the debate is scheduled by the Senate Majority Leader. He'll set X amount of days or whatever. And, if you and your 100 friends can all talk for 100 hours at a time or something like this, you'll kill the debate if you can run out that clock. In order not to kill that debate, you need what's called cloture. It's a it's a 60% vote in the Senate. You need 60 votes to get cloture, what's called cloture, and then you can override a filibuster. So let's just say that happens. Either the filibuster is overridden or there isn't one, which is generally the case. Then the Senate floor will put it to a vote, right? So you have your vote. Now, two things can happen here in the vote. Obviously, you can get a no vote or you can get a yes vote. So let's take the no first. So the no vote will go back to the majority leader, right? If it's voted down, Harry Reid gets it back, and he can either kill it, by not scheduling the thing for debate, or he would actually kill it just for fun. He would kill it because he doesn't like it, because it didn't make it through the Senate floor and he didn't want to pursue it at that point. So you could kill it there, or he has the option to throw it back into the committee hearings again. And it would go maybe to subcommittees for a little bit more info, it would be revised, and then it would go down this process again. Right? But let's say they just love the thing. They're going to vote yes. Right? So yes, this is kind of a big deal. Now the Senate has passed a particular bill that they like. So it's going to go over to the other side of Congress. And since we started from the Senate, we will now go to the House. And the Speaker of the House right now is John Boehner. It would be put into his hands, and he would decide which committee it would go to. So, if it's a I don't know, armed forces thing, then it would go to the Armed Forces Committee and they would take a look at it. They go to the committee hearings to mark it up, to amend it, to change any of the language, the punctuation, etc. They would pull in experts. Again, you get the subcommittee process, and they would be refining the bill as they see fit. It's called marking it up. And so now two things can happen here, and this is going to resemble the Senate process. Well, they can pigeonhole the thing. They can spin it around in committee all day long for years and years and years, and then that will effectively kill it. Or they could actually put it to a formal vote, and two things could happen. They could vote no, and they could kill it. Or they could vote yes, and then it will get to the Rules Committee. It's on its way to the floor here. I'll pan out, and so you can kind of see the House floor there on the right. It's on its way to the floor, but it needs to stop by the Rules Committee first. Now, the Rules Committee of the House, much more potent than the Senate. Their job is to essentially set the rules by which the bill can be debated on the floor, on the House floor. So they cannot set the rules, and it dies. Generally, they will set the rules for the debate. You can have rules. A rule would be like, you can't amend this bill. So they can set rules specific to that bill that would help that bill, in theory, pass through the House floor. So let's say they set the rules for the debate. Now we're going to move on to the House floor. They'll debate, they'll amend the bill, and ultimately they'll vote on it. Now we'll see this process again that we saw in the Senate play itself out again. Votes can have a no or yes. Let's just say it's a no vote. They vote no, it travels up here, back to the Speaker, right? So the House votes it down. They give it back to Boehner in this case, the Speaker of the House, and he gets to decide. Are they going to pursue it? He could just kill it. He could just kill the thing. Or he could put it back into the committee. It's his choice. It's one of the more powerful things about the Speaker of the House is they get to make choices on bills, whether they continue or whether they just die. So, again, that's the no vote. They could vote yes, and if they do, now you have a problem. The Senate has voted, and the Senate loves a thing, so they vote yes. The House votes yes, but the House has amended the Senate version. Now, they both have to sign the same version of the bill. So you see the problem here, right? The House has amended what the Senate signed, so now there's an issue. Now the Senate has approved one bill, and the House has approved another. And they approve it right here. And so this flips over to what's called a conference committee. The conference committee is made up of both parties and both houses, and their job is to create a compromise. You have people from the House and from the Senate here looking at this thing, and they say, okay, well, how can we glue this together in a way that the Senate will like and a way that the House will like as well? So it's their job to come up with this compromise bill and then throw it back at both houses. So they put it back into both houses. The bill will go to the House, and the bill will also go to the Senate. And so the House, they can vote on the thing. They can kill it there if they like, if they don't like that language, or they can pass it. Likewise in the Senate, they can do the same. They can kill it or pass it. So let's focus on the pass. Let's say they both pass it. So this is kind of a big deal, right? They have both passed the identical piece of legislation, right? The conference committee revised it in a way that they both agree with or like, and they can go back and forth until they finally get something that they like. So they pass it. And this is really a significant moment because the House has seen something that it loves, it has passed it. The Senate has seen something that it had also passed. Both houses of Congress have passed the same bill at this point. Super important. Now, this flips over to the president. So they enroll the bill, they print it on this special paper, they throw it over to the president, they say, check it out, we just passed a bill, right? You can imagine how often that happens. The president's going to have a bunch of options of what he can do with this thing. Really 5 options. I have 4 up here on the board. He's got veto. He can veto it. He can sign it as it is. He can sign it and choose not to enforce all or parts of it. Or he can do what's called a pocket veto. A pocket veto takes place generally at the end of each congressional term when Congress is out to take a 10-day recess. And if the bill is put on the president's desk and it sits there and does nothing for 10 days, it's effectively a veto. He does not have to veto it. He does not have to offer suggestions to it. It just is vetoed, right, while Congress is not there. He can also leave the thing on his desk and not veto it, not touch it. But if Congress is in session, if it's not during this 10-day recess at the end of the congressional term, then it will become law. And so that's one of the things I don't have up on the board. The president can pocket veto, and then it will essentially die. It'll actually go back to Congress for a 2/3 vote. We'll check out that here in a minute. He can sign it, and this is really interesting. He can sign it as it is, and the bill will become law, and everybody's happy. Or he can sign it and choose not to enforce all or parts of it, and that would effectively maim it. Now, why would the president do that? We have, for example, Colorado, state law, medical marijuana, recreational marijuana is legal, right? That is illegal under federal law. It's a federalism issue that we've seen before in class. He would do that, or he has done that, and he says, yeah, it's illegal under federal law, but I will choose not to enforce it. I'm not going to go into Colorado and arrest a bunch of pot smokers getting high and make a big deal of it. I'm just not going to do it. So I'm taking that enforcement mechanism off the table for this particular law. So he does that relatively often. He could sign it as it is, like I said, or he could veto it. And if he's going to veto it, he's going to send this thing back with his suggestions to revise. Like, clause A, B, and C, 1, 2, and 3, whatever. I want to look more like this. This is why I'm vetoing it. And so that would go then back to the Speaker and the Majority Leader. The Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid and John Boehner in this case. So they would, again, get to decide what to do now. If they think that it's dead in the water or they just don't like it, they would do nothing and the bill would die. Or if they really thought that this is a great thing, it's a great bill, it needs more work to pass, but that work is possible, then what they'll do is they'll put it back into both houses, and they'll try to get a supermajority vote. Supermajorities, we know, are 2/3, so it's 300 and something in the House, it's 67 in the Senate, and if you get that, you can override that veto, and that thing will go right to law. So there's the process, in a nutshell, about how a bill becomes a law.